cyberbullying, for sorry. Um, and so we just want to make sure that you are aware that this discussion might include some of these topics and that you feel comfortable, turning your sound off for a bit if you need to, or leaving the room, and that will not be offending to us at all. So I just wanted to take a minute to give you this trigger warning, and I am going to dive into the first part of this presentation, which I want to focus on really understanding your child's digital world, what brings them to the online world, what are they looking for, and what happens to them there. Um, so the way that we look at it in child protection is that children have push and pull factors when it comes to going online. What we call the pull factors is that the online space essentially represents connection with friends, a sense of belonging and identity formation. It opens up the boundaries of the world for them and gives them a sense of exploration, creativity, self-expression as well. And not to forget the huge amount of entertainment and gaming humor trends that they can be a part of through online spaces. That has important benefits for them. They have unlimited exposure to learning experiences, curiosity, and skill building. And they are connected to the world in a way that makes them more aware of everything around them. In terms of the push factors and what is sort of potentially making them go online for, let's say, not necessarily the wrong reasons, but something that is impacting the fact that they would prioritize the online world more than the offline one. Yes, space. Sorry. Sorry, you're raising your head. Do you have a question or something? Or no? Okay, that's fine. So the push factors, as I was saying, that lead them to prioritize the online space rather than the physical space, might be also stress, loneliness, and bullying at school, meaning that when they're not necessarily finding what they're looking for offline, they might go look for it online. And that could also be family conflicts or instability, the lack of safe offline spaces, for instance, if they have topics that they feel they can't discuss, and that they are looking for answers online rather than going to a person offline. And also looking for a community when you're feeling different. And that we will see after can also be the source of vulnerabilities online. But the main thing to remember is some of those push factors definitely should be addressed by parents in the sense of offering your child a space to give them, the freedom to come up to you on these different topics. Um, and so, as I was mentioning, there are different sort of impacts for your children online. Not all of them negative. I know that we usually talk about the negative ones, but online is really dual use, and content itself is not good or bad, but it mostly depends on context, maturity, and the support that we give children and adults to navigate those spaces. So, among the positive impacts that the online spaces can have on mental health, there's the idea that identity exploration is in a low risk environment is somehow a way for children to discover a bit more about who they are and develop character and also connect with peers, get into support communities in a way that they might not have access to depending on where they live, the level of, common human factors like how many friends they have at school, how connected they feel to the community offline. It also gives them access to mental health information, and sometimes in communities where you don't necessarily have that information, they can get access to it. And online spaces notoriously represent a safe space for marginalized youth. So think about countries where, for instance, gender identity can be a source of targeting for young people, or it can be seen as something that's not appropriate in the cultural setting. They can escape that feeling of shortcoming online and find the right communities for that. But of course, it also comes with negative impacts, notably in that have been documented quite well. Comparison pressure and performance anxiety. What you see online is not real, is a phrase that we often hear. and among parents and among different, even influencers that are starting to speak out about it. Um, and I think that the main thing here is performance anxiety is something that I'm going to tackle a bit after, but comes with different age development stages that push children to really compare themselves to other in a way that can be quite unhealthy and set unrealistic expectations for themselves in terms of self-confidence, body acceptance, but also, performance in sports in artistic competitions, all of those topics, they can see the best of the best online and feel like they have to abide to those standards. They also get exposed to harmful content, like self-harm and extreme views. You've probably heard about the skinny talk trend, which was a trend on TikTok to show how you were losing weight and how skinny you were. And that trend came with a lot of pushing for harmful behavior towards oneself. So it was encouraging anorexic behavior and sometimes self-harm. And then that's part of the different harms that we are going to tackle later, but cyberbullying and harassment are part of the possibilities. And more on the cognitive side, exposure to the screens, if not regulated by the right times of connections, can lead to sleep disturbance and sensory overload, as well as emotional dysregulation. So the fact that algorithms and online spaces are designed with a sort of calculation of how a customer reacts and how you can keep someone online for as long as you possibly can. That's called a reward loop, whereby, for instance, if you connect every day to Duolingo, you get a reward by having a flame that shows the number of days that you have connected. And same for Snapchat, that gives you a reward, a sense of you have to connect every single day. That's what we mean. It gives you a sense of addiction. That dysregulates what you prioritize in your emotional well-being. Um, as I was saying, what's important to consider is that not all children of all ages will have the same experience online and will have the same vulnerabilities. So I like to sort of divide this in three main parts, having in mind that obviously they're not going to have access to the same type of online devices or spaces depending on the age. And technically, under 13, they're not supposed to be on social media, but we know that it's the case that they have been present younger than that. And then you obviously have access to devices before that. But just to kind of set the tone here, in terms of brain development, we tend to separate young children from 6 to 11 who are still learning impulse control and struggling to distinguish ads, what's real, what's fake, and also have a high susceptibility to grooming and manipulation. So, because you are still in the very early stages of developing your brain and your identity, everything that an adult or someone who presents authority presents to you is going to look real and is going to sound real. Um, Impulse control is also if you want to do something, you'll just do it without having the reflex of trying to think about whether it's a good idea or not. For adolescents, so 12 to 17 mostly, because they're trying to stay in the minors frame. Um, it's kind of the reverse. You now know what you're supposed to do or not, but your reward system is highly active. So you're constantly looking for validation and rewards. So that addictive potential is at its highest at this time. But also your prefrontal cortex is still developing. So you are very prone to risk taking. And even though you know what you should be doing or not, this is the moment of your life where your brain is most likely to go against the impulse. And it's not a personality thing, it really is a cognitive and neuroscientific um, aspect of teenagehood. And you're very sensitive to peer validation and social pressure. So that's obviously something that is going to be very important on behavior on social media. And then importantly, young adults, so 18 to 25, when you're just coming out of the childhood phase, but you're still supposed to be listening to your parents. And that's also when adults can still have an impact on their child's behavior online, you're still in the identity consolidation phase. So you're still looking for role models online, and you're also still vulnerable to online harms linked to relationships, extremism, risky behaviors. Kind of going a bit more into depth on what type of factors make children vulnerable to abuse that parents should probably be aware of. And importantly, obviously, a child is never at fault for being a victim. And the fact is that any child can be abused, no matter its gender, no matter its geographical location. Being online itself is already a factor of online abuse, like Athena often says in her training. So I kind of stole that phrase here. Um, and um, and I think, what some of the factors that we should have in mind is that still there are some children that may be more susceptible to being abused than others. Specifically because when we talk about vulnerabilities, they tend to be the same online as they are offline, but in a way that tends to be exacerbated. So if you're a special needs child, for instance, you will require special needs online as well, but you don't necessarily have the structure to accompany you in the same way that you would offline. Children that have family problems or struggling with poverty as well might be exposed because they might be more prone to risk taking for financial rewarding, for instance. Ignorance of online dangers is a very common one that definitely plays a role. Self-esteem issues obviously is a very important one as well because you might be more likely to respond to compliments and grooming behavior, but you might also be looking at problems with engaging with harmful content in a way that makes you feel much more vulnerable to that content than if you were with high self-esteem. Social isolation, which is both a reason why a child would go online a bit more and also why they would have a more challenging experience online. And then gender, tribe, race, belonging, all of those factors that make you more vulnerable offline also make you more vulnerable online. Um, and then this whole set of factors, if combined, can also increase the possibility of being exploited or abused online. Now, just going a bit more into some specific vulnerability factors that I want to go more in depth for. I wanted to talk about LGBTQ plus youth because I think recently we've been seeing a rise in the number of communities online that are initially very good initiatives that provide safe spaces for communities and that are supposed to be very protected, but that have been targeted by offenders and groomers online. Um, and this is part of the community that has been targeted the most. And obviously, we're also in a political environment that is very prone to looking for the scapegoat that is going to take all of the blame for everything wrong in the world. And that from, different political movements has come to target immigrants and minority youth quite a lot. And so we're seeing that also translate to the online space, whereby you can be targeted by people that you know offline, and then it escalates into you're getting hate and violent speech from people that you don't even know. And that also involves mental health difficulties for children. You might be looking for communities that talk about anxiety and depression, and someone who knows where to look will find that community and try to exploit those risks. And then obviously children with disabilities and socioeconomic disadvantage as well. So I know that this is all a bit gloomy, but I think the main thing that we want you to have in mind for this is that children go online to meet real emotional and social needs. And if they do that, they can also find those things in real life, and they can also have access to that. And if we make sure that they get it, they are less exposed to any opportunity off online to exploit what they don't have offline. And phrased in another way, online spaces can support or harm mental health. And so when we say depending on guidance and context, This means that we need to learn with them how to use the spaces. If a child is going on an app that you feel, you've heard could be potentially harmful, try to understand how they use that app and why they go on there and what they're looking in there. Try to see if it's something that you can give them. And instead of forbidding that they go on that space, try to understand how you can better equip them to navigate safely that space. Because they will find a way to go there if they want to. And it's better that they trust you to talk about it. Um, and then understanding developmental and vulnerability factors also help you as parents to create safer digital conversations. Because if you know at what age your child is supposed to have certain behaviors, you can also notice different patterns and changes in their behaviors that might be indicative of the struggles that they're going through. And we'll have time for questions after. So I'm just gonna jump to the next part straight ahead. But if you had any, feel free to write them in the chat so that you don't forget them. And I'm gonna give the floor to my colleague Athena to tell you a bit more about risks online.
Thank you so much, Anna, for that very detailed introduction and setting the pace for us. I'm just gonna jump into it, but first, I think we're very quiet in the group, so
Yes,
good.
I agree.
We're very quiet in the group. So
Yes.
good afternoon, good evening, parents. I hope you're really following. I don't know if we're all parents, so good evening, everyone. I hope we are all in this together. I really would encourage you to just say your name and where you're joining us from on the chat. And to start off the conversation, as Anna said, I'm going to look at recognizing some of the risks that children face online. But since we are so quiet, I'm going to do a small activity to help us discuss. So Anna, I'm going to share my screen and then I'll ask you to reshare the slides once I'm done, okay? Is that fine? Thank you. So I'm going to share a very small video and please pay attention to it and then tell me what you pick from it. So once the video comes to an end, please just tell me what you got from the video and then we can jump into the topic of cyberbullying. Okay? Here we go. And you can see my screen, Faith? Yeah? Okay,
Yes.
great. Let me turn off even my video. I'm playing now. If you can hear, just let me.
I heard about a lot of things my friends were doing online that were really mean or just plain crazy. I never thought I would do anything like that. One day my friend Pat showed me a website he made. He posted a list of girls in our school and had guys we know go on and rate them. Sort of a hot or not kind of website. I thought it was pretty funny, so I rated them too. We had a good laugh and I thought that was the end of it. The next day, everyone at school was talking about it. He had sent it out to the whole school to see. I could tell a couple of girls had been crying, and I knew it was because of what the guys had said about them and how they looked. I felt bad, but I didn't really get it until I went home that night. Turns out, the guys had put my little sister on the site too, but hid it from me because they knew I would get upset. She was crying when I got home, and she wouldn't even look at me. I would never have said those things to someone's face. I didn't even mean them. I thought it was just a joke between friends. Now Pat's suspended from school, and they might kick me out too. Once you put something online, you lose control of it. You can never get it back, and people can use it in ways you never even meant. I learned that the hard way. I wish I never saw that stupid site.
Okay, I hope we've been able to pick something from it. So at this point, I'll just ask us to share. Thank you. I can see that people opening up on the chat. So anyone can tell me what they've picked from that video? Anything. There is no right or wrong response. Were we all able to follow it? You can do a thumbs up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think the thing that I really took from the video is that there's an unintentional trapping sometimes with online access for people, for young people. And I mean, if they say a boy's brain doesn't stop developing until they're like 24 or something like that. So I think there's this real sense that even when we look at young men, early 20s, you would think that there'd be some sort of leap in their understanding of the ramifications of technology, or saying things, but there is an equipping that needs to happen for young people, for young men. And I mean, my son's 5, and we don't make a big deal out of screen time, but we are quite he has nothing Monday to Friday, like just nothing, just because we have discovered that there are other talents that he has that have come forth by not having it, rather than zoning out. So, but we still have to equip him, right? Because at some point he's going to be able to access technology by himself and these platforms. So I think that what really stood out to me was just the trappings of it and that leap.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Eddie. I hope that's your name. As you said, I think the most important thing I've picked up from what you said is the understanding of the ramifications of their actions online as one of the key things. So for him, it was a joke among friends. They were calling out on girls, hot or not, as he said. And then he was like, he did not mean it, and he would not have said it face to face to any girl had he been together with them. And as a result of that, he concludes that once you put something out there, you can't take it back and you have no control over what people say about it. So that video shows us full cycle, an example of how cyberbullying occurs among the young children. And it's not just men, it can be even girls doing it to other girls or to other boys. The point is that when we are talking about online harms to children, it can be child-on-child abuse, or it can be an adult-to-child abuse. And so the thing is for us to create awareness among children, because we cannot take away technology from them, to create awareness on how to positively navigate the digital space. Anna, can you share the slides now? Thank you. Anyone else with anything they picked from the video, or they want to cement the point? All right. Please don't be so quiet. You can put it on the chat. You can continue, Anna. Thank you. So we're going to be looking, as the first thing, we're going to be looking at cyberbullying. And most of the time when we talk about cyberbullying, we're used to the conventional name calling, insulting offense as bullying, but bullying can present itself in very many ways on the online platform. And this is repeated harm done on any gaming platform, any social media platform, or any other digital platform that you can access on the online space. And this is mainly playing on power imbalance, on the fact that you can... Sorry, Rose, you have something?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma.
Okay, so cyberbullying, as we have seen from that video, can come from the fact that it's anonymous, so you feel safe to name call and say nasty things because you think no one will know it was you who said it. It can also be about popularity. Everyone else is doing it, so why should I not? And also the group mentality, teenagers and children move with a mob mentality. So I want to do it because my friends are doing it. So this happens with children in WhatsApp and class groups, on social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, on the comments, or even in the DM section. Gaming platforms have also become very big cyberbullying platforms. If a child is not really good at gaming, their friends can gang up against them, name call them, make them feel bad about themselves. And even the Google Classroom and school classroom forums have become a platform for bullying. So how does it look like? The normal one that we know is insults, name calling, creating mocking memes and GIFs. It can also be rumors or pylons, whereby you have many people following and unfollowing your account just to make you feel bad about yourself, or the whole class blocking you from a particular site. This actually amounts to cyberbullying. Another one is exclusion from games or chats on purpose. And an example I like giving is, imagine we are the 19 of us in this group today, and Faith is like, we've all had a very good session, so this weekend we're going to have a team building. And since we have, let's say, a common WhatsApp group, we decide that only the people who receive an invitation are going to come for the team building event. And so we invite everyone, and Rose, let me pick on you, and decide we're not going to invite Rose. But Rose is in the same WhatsApp group with us. She knows everyone is going out this weekend, but she's the only one who's not allowed to come for that event. And then we post, we say how we had a really good time and how everyone was amazing. How do you think Rose would feel about that? Rose, how would you feel if you were excluded? Come on. Anyone wants to give it a try? How would you feel if everyone was going, you knew they were going, but they decided not to invite you? Yes, Bunmi.
I would feel awful. Yeah,
You'd feel awful. You'd doubt yourself, right?
exactly. Yeah.
And still wondering what's wrong with me. And that
Mhm.
is, thank you, Bunmi, for that. That is the impact of cyberbullying. It's mainly meant to make you question your self-esteem. So we never looked at exclusion as a form of bullying, but it is actually a form of bullying. We also have impersonification, creation of fake accounts. Someone goes online, creates an account in your name, and instead of posting positive things that you've always been posting, they start insulting the government, insulting the school, or even sharing abusive material about other people. That's a form of bullying because it discredits who you are as a person and the way the society around you looks like. And this is happening a lot among children, especially if there's a child who may have an account that is doing really well, and there is a group that is feeling jealous or bad about it. They may come, create a fake account and start posting negative things to discredit this particular child. We also have what is called doxing, which is sharing of private information about a particular person so that you can invite others to come and bully them or harass them online. So for example, you go online, you say the name of the child, where they live, how many they are in the family, their phone number, so that, and you're like, guys, keep calling Faith. And so it's 10 p.m. and people are still calling Faith. That is a form of online harassment which amounts to cyberbullying. That's what we call doxing. And finally, sharing of embarrassing photos or videos about a child without consent. And in most cases, when it comes to child abuse, consent is never a prerequisite. So you cannot say the child agreed to be abused. As long as it is abuse, no matter whether the child had agreed to it or not, that it amounts to still abuse and action needs to be taken. So then the question becomes, what do we do for the child who is abused? And what do we do for the child who is abusing others, right? So for the child who's abusing others, the reaction normally is expel this child. This is a bad child. Let's not talk to this child again. Let's remove our children from their environment. But we need to understand that in most cases, cyberbullying, especially among children, comes from a place of hurt. And we have a saying that hurt people hurt people. So if they have grown up in a toxic environment, if they've grown up in areas where abuse is common or is rife, they're more likely to project it to their peers. So instead of just going and calling them out and ruling them out as bad children, it is important for us to understand why they are doing what they're doing and then champion for behavior change, what we call redirection. Okay. And then for the child who is being bullied also, we make sure that that child is also protected. So how can you know if a child is going through bullying? First of all, there is secrecy with devices. They're constantly deleting chats because they find them offensive. They have mood and sleep disorders or changes because of anxiety and depression. Sometimes they may avoid school, especially if it is the schoolmates or the classmates who are bullying them. That means that the bullying is happening online and also on the offline platform. Then we can have the child suddenly saying they don't want their SIM cards, they don't want their phone number, they want They don't want anything to do with social media accounts. And this, you might think, is a good sign. You're like, yay, my child is winning off social media. But it could be because they've faced abuse and they're traumatized on the platform. So it is important to understand why your child is not on these platforms, if initially they were on it. Then signs that the child may be bullying others. In most cases, we want to think that our kids are perfect, that they never bully other children. But there are instances, even the children of the best of us could bully others, whether consciously or unconsciously. So if a child has multiple secret accounts, they seem to laugh at the distress of others. They're defensive about their actions, and you also get complaints from peers and educators or their teachers. It is important to investigate why, so that you can also champion behavior change within your child. Next slide, please, Anna. So when we are dealing with cyberbullying, I call it the 5R plan, generally how to respond. The first thing you tell a child who's being bullied is they should pause. They should not clap back or retaliate. The term today among the Gen Zs, it's clap back. So you insult me, I will insult you back. Tell them not to clap back, not to retaliate or respond. Then take a breath and tell a trusted adult. In most cases, children think they deserve the abuse they're going through online. So if they put a funny photo of themselves online and people are insulting them because of it, they'd be like, I called for this, I asked for it. So let the child know that they're not in trouble, they did not ask for abuse, and it is okay for them to speak to a trusted adult. Recording evidence is very important, especially in cases where the bullying has become harmful in terms of causing suicidal ideation, physical harm, if the child is actually receiving physical harm from other children, or when he or she goes out, and also when there is images of the child that is being shared. So evidence recording is important, but that doesn't mean that if there's a nude picture of your child, you take a photo of the nude and then you start sharing it. That is illegal. What you should do is you have the messages within the phone to hand it over to law enforcement. So you can take down the date when the information was, or the insults were being shared, or the images, the platform where it was being shared, whether it is a link or a WhatsApp group. Note the name and the group and the phone number of the people who were actually contributing to the bullying. This is very important in evidence collection for investigation once the matter is escalated to law enforcement. This is in the life-threatening situation. So keep a simple incident log. What happened, when it happened, where it happened, and who were the perpetrators. And if there were other members in the group who did not talk, they can also serve as witnesses. After recording, you can advise your child to report and block. That means they go online on the account, they report first the content, either as abusive, pornographic, sexually exploitative, and then they block the account. Secondly, escalate the matter. If it was abuse among peers, report it to school so that the head teacher, the counselor, the pastor, depending on the kind of system the schools have, they can start an investigation and also the conversation for behavior change. If the matter is too much for the school to handle, as Anna will talk to us a bit later, you can call the local helpline or hotline for counselor support that school counselors may not have. And finally, escalate the matters to the police. Again, as I said, if the threat is imminent and there is sexual images of the minor. So the first 3 R's are recognize, record, report, and block. The 4th R, Anna, is remove and recover. This is for the child who's being abused. Let them leave the toxic group, or they can remove the people who are abusing them, make their accounts more private, and stick only with the people they want in their inner circle. So in most cases, children have the fear of missing out. And in a conversation we were having earlier today, it's you block today and then tomorrow you're like, what would they be saying? And then the child unblocks the person who's been insulting them. So let your child know that it is okay to block and not be friends with people who are making them feel bad about themselves, regardless of how popular this person may be. They can also mute notifications. Most cases, when an Instagram post comes in, a notification pops on our phones or on our laptops. Let them mute, let them change their passwords if their accounts have been impersonified, or consider a short app break. Take a 1 or 2 week breaks from one of these social media sites. Then emotional first aid, that is part of recovery. Reassure the child that they're good enough in themselves. Reassure them that it is not their fault. Have them focus on what is good about themselves and about their lives and not the negative things that have been said to them. Finally, agree, restore, and rebuild. That means agree on the consequences for the bully. Remember, it's not just punishment, it's punishment and behavior change. Otherwise, the bully will continue doing it because, as we said, children sometimes don't have foresight. So they will keep doing harm until they understand the consequences of their action. Then support, positive peer connections, and offline activities. Let all the capacity building activities for children not just be online, but also on the offline platform, as Anna said. And then family and schools come up with policies for handling bullies. And especially bystanders are very important. Sometimes you go to schools or you have cases and the child is like, but I didn't insult, I didn't name call, I did not say anything. So we have what we call the bystanders pledge, where you don't forward, don't join the conversation, support the person who's being bullied, and report. Okay, so that is the process of restoration and rebuilding, considering these are all children and they all need parental and adult guidance and supervision. Thank you. Any questions on cyberbullying before we move to the next harm? You can please put it on the chat. Let's proceed, Anna. The next form of online abuse we're going to be looking at is online grooming. In most cases, grooming, we think of grooming as making ourselves look good and, groom yourself for the prom, groom yourself for going to church or going to your friend's place. But when you're talking about grooming on the online platform, it's like fattening the calf for slaughter. So when someone pretends or offers friendliness to a child in order to build trust and then eventually take that trust and use it to abuse the child. So in short, it's preparing a child for the process of abuse. So grooming is a very methodological process that occurs over time, although nowadays it can even take a very short period of time. So Anna mentioned factors that make children vulnerable to abuse. One of them was social isolation. Another one was poverty. So let's take, for example, and say Anna comes from a family where her parents don't care about her. They don't have time for her. And Anna is a 14-year-old girl. And she's on social media and she's constantly saying how she's feeling lonely, how her parents are inattentive. Today she did really well in her math test, but her parents did not even bother to look at the papers when she took it to them. And as Anna is venting on social media, yeah, there are friends who are genuinely supporting her, but we can have two scenarios. We can have John, who pretends to be who is actually a 40-year-old man, who joins Anna's, slides into her posts and is like, and I'm really sorry for what you're going through. My name is John and I am a mentor. I deal with kids who are going through situations like yours and I understand. Would you like me to mentor you? And Anna will believe that she has found someone who understands her. That's scenario number one. Scenario number two, we can still have John, who is 40 years old, but has created an account of a 15-year-old boy. And he befriends Anna and he says, Anna, I know I'm also in the same situation. My parents don't pay attention to me. They don't care. I think you and I have a lot in common. And they keep talking. And John, the 15-year-old is like, maybe you should be my girlfriend. We'll treat each other better because we understand each other. So that is step number one. The online groomer or the abuser has identified the need of the child, their loneliness, their desire to belong. In cases of poverty, the child may say they don't have money to go to school. If it's a girl, they may say they don't have money for sanitary pads. If it's a boy, they may say they don't have shoes, as in anything, or they wanted to buy data and they were not able to get it. So when they identify the need of the child, they decide how they're going to fill this need. And that is where they gain trust. Step 2. So the friendly chats, they offer compliments, they talk about shared interest, they're constantly checking in on them. So if it is John, the 40-year-old, every morning he'll be like, hey, Anna, get up, it's a beautiful day, go to school, you're gonna do great. And he's being her cheerleader. If it's John, the 15-year-old, he'll be like, another day to go to school, we got this, we are here for each other. At the end of the day, we're going to compare notes. So Anna feels understood. So after that, the conversation moves to private chat or secret conversations. So they're no longer on the public platforms. Now they're talking on private DM, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Messenger. The conversation is supposed to be now secret. We have a special thing going on. If people know about it, they're gonna ruin it. So grooming continues, step 3. Step 4, again, as we have said about it, they've offered attention, they've offered gifts, they may have sent money, actual cash, they may have sent game codes if the child was in need of gaming codes. This creates a sense of loyalty for between the child and the abuser, or a sense of debt. Okay? So once the rewards and hooks have been put in place, the abuser will then test boundaries. They'll ask for personal information. So if it's John, 15-year-old, he'll be like, we've been boyfriend and girlfriend virtually, but I've never seen you. Like, send a photo of yourself. Or tomorrow, send a topless photo of yourself. Or the next time, I need you to do this for me. And Anna will believe that since this boy really understands her, that is what he really intends to do. It's just normal. We are in a relationship. This is something normal for us to happen. So if Anna sends the photos, then that means that the abuser knows that this is a person they could easily exploit. Next, please. So step 5 is testing boundaries. Step 6 is now making demands. Once the person knows that their hooks are in place, they would, if the first image was of Anna topless from the 15-year-old, he'll be like, send me an image, a full body image of yourself completely nude. And if Anna refuses, it's like, I'm gonna share your photos with other people. So it's like, I'm not actually 15 years old, I'm 40 years old, and this is why I was grooming you, or this is why we started the conversation. And now the exploitation begins. If it's John, the 40-year-old, and in the same jurisdiction, he might ask Anna, let's go and meet somewhere for coffee. And when they meet, he would force Anna, whether it is to steal, whether it is for sexual exploitation or any other abuse. At this point, the abuser has already formed a relationship enough to be able to abuse and has enough leverage to ensure that the child does what it is that they want them to do. So they will conceal and they will repeat and they will tell the child not to tell anyone. And if there is no safe space for conversations for this particular child, the cycle of abuse will continue for a very long time. And then you realize once the child is suicidal or when they have recruited classmates or even their siblings. So it is very important to pay attention to the warning signs, like children who have new older friends. They've become very secretive with their phones. They have moved from public groups to private chats continuously. They have requests for photos. They have mood swings. They also go missing from designated areas, especially if they're meeting with the abuser offline. So if they're supposed to be in school, you can note that every Friday in the afternoon, the child is constantly not in school. That could be a telltale sign that there could be something else happening. So watch out for the warning signs. Remember, grooming can only occur if the child is in need. So the groomer will always exploit the need of the child. So if a child is constantly talking about things that are going wrong for them online, the abuser is able to tap into it and easily offer comfort and support, which in exchange eventually will become the grounds for grooming and abuse for the particular child. Okay, I hope that is clear. So closely related to grooming and next is sextortion, which is an outcome now of online grooming. Remember we talked about sharing of images? So this is when now the first image has been shared and there is a demand either for images or money or even meeting up. So let's say Anna shared a topless photo of herself. The groomer will be, John will say, I need another photo. If Anna refuses, the person will be like, if you don't, I'm going to share this with the rest of your friend. So he's blackmailing or sextorting, sexual extortion. That's what sextortion stands for. So using sexual images to demand for more. John would also say, I no longer need your images. I want you to be sending me $100 every week. If you don't, I'm going to share your photos. That is another form of sexual extortion, which is as a result of online grooming. So this is where someone demands money, intimate images, meeting in exchange with the threat of, if it doesn't happen, then they're going to leak the child's intimate photos. So what do? Do not pay and do not negotiate. If you pay, if as a parent you find out this is happening and you pay, it will not stop the abuse from happening. As we said in the previous conversation, save evidence, stop contact, and report in-app. Let the child know safe adults they can talk to. Support the child emotionally. This is not their fault. They were only looking for comfort. It's only that they got it from the wrong person. So then the question becomes, is our communities offering enough safe space for children who may not get it at home to get it in school, in churches, or in other support groups? Okay, next slide, Anna. So that is it on grooming and sextortion. We're going to run through predation in games. And this is very important because we know children are playing a lot of games. And now games have become the platform for cyberbullying, for online grooming, for sexual extortion, and so many other harms against children. So predation in games happens when someone uses game features to befriend a child, manipulate, and then exploit the child. It is basically grooming, but now on the online platform. So it plays out almost the same as grooming. They will spot a target, a new player, a lonely player, kids who are using voice chats, kids who seem to play by themselves with bots and not other group of kids. They will gain their trust by becoming the friendly teammate, by offering to help them achieve levels. Then they'll ask the child, let's be talking about game tips, but we can't talk about it on the public platform. Let's talk about it in private chat. So they move the chat to private, where it is easier. They will give the child game coins. They will give them rewards. They will help them boost their trades. This is a form of creating loyalty, again, similar to grooming. They will ask for small secrets. Now that we are friends, can you tell me who you live with? When are your parents at home? What do you like doing during your free time? Would you be fine meeting with us? Right? So again, test boundaries, then make demands. They can ask for videos, they can ask for photos, they can ask for money. They can normalize sexual behavior. And since the child sees that this is the person who understands them and has helped them to level up, they feel that it is okay to have these conversations with the person. Should the child, quote unquote, chicken out, the groomer, again, the predator in the gaming platform, will use threats and pressure to make sure the child complies. Imagine you have gotten to level 99 in your gaming and then someone reports you and you lose everything and you have to start again from scratch. I can see Faith shaking her head, but even for us who are in this call, how many of us play some game on their phones? Which game do you have on your phone, Faith? Anna, what game do you have? Do you play any online game? Or even just a normal game?
I'm afraid I don't really do games on my phone. I must have Candy Crush from 1,000 years ago, but
Yeah.
but I don't really use it for that now.
Yeah. Faith, do you have any games? Anyone with a game on their phone?
Yes, I do. I have chess and I have this recent one, Not Away.
Aha. Don't even know that one. Okay. Anyone else would share what game they have? Not necessarily an online game. Any fun game you play to pass time? Anyone? We're not that old school. Funny thing, I play Subway Surfers. Like that has been my game from since we knew games existed. I don't know if anyone else has a game on their phone.
I have Block Blast and Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mamu. Now imagine these games, right? And you have just one more move to get to the next level, and then it tells you you're out of points. How do you normally feel? Yeah? It's crazy, right? You're like, ah. Now imagine it's a competitive games for kids, and they just need 500 more coins to level up, but they cannot get it on the game. And someone offers to give it to them, and they level up against their friends. Do you think they would do anything to get those coins? Yeah? So this is how predation in games occurs. As Anna said, there's this reward you get from playing or from being online. That is the same thing gaming does. So if you really need those points, you would do anything without foresight about consequences, because right now as a child, the only thing you're focusing on is leveling up and beating your friends at it. And that is how predation in games occurs. It knows the desperation, the groomer knows or the abuser knows the desperation to level up, and they use that to ensure that the child is continuously complying with their demands while the groomer helps them, quote unquote, beat their peers, where else in the real sense it is abuse. Next slide. So when we are talking to our children about online gaming, we need to talk about red flags they can easily spot. So gifts or trades in exchange for pictures or favors is a big no-no. They need to understand that nothing or gifts and trades should not compromise their well-being. That means having intentional conversation with them about what well-being is, what do's and don'ts on the online platform as. They also need to be very aware of people who ask them to keep secrets or ask them to move into private chats. Let's talk somewhere. Let's keep this a secret. We don't want other people to know. Okay? People who ask for their age, their schools, their location, who they live with, if their parent is present, asking them to turn on cameras so that they can talk to them. Those are red flags. Then links to free Roblox. Robux is for Robux. We have V-Bucks. We have skins. We have Nitro gifts. These are all gifts in gaming platforms, which children thrive in getting and collecting. So if someone is offering to give them for free, that is a red flag, as in, come on, nothing comes for free, right? So these are red flags we need to talk to our children about. Also, older friends who chat late at night or who get angry and agitated when they're not talked to. Your children need to know that they do not owe anyone their nighttime or constant conversation. So if there's someone who is getting pissed off at them because they're not talking to them, that is a red flag. So what do they do if something feels wrong? Again, I love my acronyms. The 4 R's. Reject. So don't reply and leave the lobby. Don't join this person on a private chat. Secondly, record. Record the person who the contact, the details, the name of the person who was talking to you, what they asked for, the messages. And if you can get the match ID or the server ID also, ask them to note it down. Then teach your child how to report in the game and how to block the user. And finally, let them tell a trusted adult. And I think you'll see trusted adult cuts across. A trusted adult is the one who will help a child navigate any form of abuse. A child cannot do that by themselves. So if there are threats or sexual images, well, if it's coming from school, inform the school. If it is coming from a stranger, report to the Child Protection Unit within law enforcement. Different jurisdictions have different law enforcement procedures, so find out yours and report should the matter especially have threats or sexual images of children. Next, Anna. Finally, we're going to look at financial scams. So I chose the 4 offenses as the main ones. There are more than 10 offenses, but this kind of cut across most. And what happens in these 4 inter overlap with all the other offenses. So finally, we're going to be looking at financial scams. And these are tricks that make children or teenagers send money, reveal codes, or give in login details so that scammers can steal, whether it's cash, items, or accounts. So how it plays out. We have where the scammer dangles something tempting or scary. So first of all, the tempting thing is skins. Click here. You will win an iPhone. Click here. You have won a ticket to Disneyland for you and your family. Click here. That is something tempting, and it's on a child's account or a child's platform. So if it is not tempting, then it's scary. Someone sends a message to your child or DMs your child, hey, it's your auntie or it's your cousin. I need urgent help. I have been hacked. Could you send me the codes for the last bank transaction we did together? As in, anything, as long as it looks urgent and they need help and they're playing on the fact that there is a familiarity, or this investment will double your cash. Click on this and you'll get more money. Does your parent trust you with a credit card? Click on this and we'll double the money from you, and you'll no longer have to ask your parents for more money. So they will use any hook that they know resonates with your child based on their online presence and behavior to try and get them to react. So what do? Tell your child to pause. Don't click on links. Ask yourself, if it is too good, if it is so good, why is it so urgent? Or why do I need to keep it a secret? Okay. So we always say if the deal is too good, think twice. Okay. And also when there's a sense of urgency, think twice. Again, there is need for a trusted adult whom they can check in with to ensure that the information they're being told is true. I ask parents, how many of us have ever been victims of scams? You can raise your hand if you want to. I have been a victim. I will say it myself. Thank you, Anna. You send money to the wrong account. You think your mother is in trouble and you send money to them. We have some across Africa, we have where you get a message, this is your child's school. We need 5,000 to buy the new textbooks, and send money to this number, and you think it's actually your child's school, the child who's in boarding, but in real sense it's just a scammer. So your online presence tells a lot about you, and it can make you an easy target, or your child an easy target. So what do? The scammer would try to push from public platform again to private platform so that they can dodge app safety tools and leave fewer traces. So ask your child to always stay on the original platform, especially gaming platforms, and treat any request to chat elsewhere as a red flag. So they need to report it. Yes, if the deal is too good, think twice. Next, Anna. So if they ask for money codes, they ask for a small fee so that we can double. Tell your child that they should never share pins, they should never share their screens, they should never carry out any payment without an adult's okay. Real banks or mobile money never ask for codes. They never ask you for your pins. Let your child know that the bank will never call you and say, hey, your account is in trouble, send your PIN, or your mobile money account is in trouble, send your PIN so that we can rectify it. Then pressure and secrecy, the do it now, the urgency, the authority they try to use. Tell your child to always take a minute, step away, verify using the official number, and then tell a trusted adult. No one who is legit needs to keep secret. Okay. So if the deal is legit, then there is no way they would ask you to keep a secret from your parent. And they need to know that once the person or the scammers get money, they would, once they get the codes, they will get cash out. That means they would empty accounts, they would redeem gifts, they would steal items from the game or take over the account. So if a child has accidentally given these accounts details, they should change passwords, turn on two-factor authentication, call the bank via their official number, and secure their pins to report in-app. Okay, next slide. So again, these are basically common types of scams. We have phishing, we have fake online shops, we have investment doubling, we have gaming, we have jobs and scholarship offers, and we also have red flags. As I mentioned, this is basically a summary. If it's too good, too fast, and too secret, that's a red flag. If it asks for your password, that's a red flag. No legit organization asks. Payments by gift cards or crypto are only supposed to be on platform, not off platform. Weird links with weird spellings, new accounts with few followers, all these are red flags that children should look at. So basically that is a summary of what online abuse looks at that we're going to cover. And in this last section now, Anna and I will just run you through what you're supposed to do to protect your children. And I'll do the first section as a run through. We may proceed, Anna. So safe spaces, this basically means have your child know that they are seen and heard. So when a child feels safe and heard, they are more likely to tell their parent before the matter escalates. So ask your child, validate them, and guide them, okay? Let them know who is a safe adult they can talk to and discuss with them positive and negative interactions on their online spaces. Safe spaces, very important, trusted adults. Next. Technology boundaries, this is where you agree with your child rules for who they talk to, when they talk to, where they talk, and what they talk about. They need to know that they need to protect their sleep, focus, and mental health. They need to reduce risks, and they need to build self-control. So the 5 P's for technology boundary are people, that is, who can they interact with? Places, where are devices used? Where can devices not be used? No secrecy in the house, periods. How long to avoid technology dependencies? Platforms, what platforms are they allowed to be on, and what privacy and protection settings are put in place to ensure that their accounts is only accessible to their peers and not outsiders who may abuse them. So technology boundaries are only effective when co-created together. If you just put them there and don't explain why they're there, then your child will basically find a way to bypass them. Next. Parental controls, this only works for the younger child. These are tools that help adults set limits. Parental controls can only limit time and block adult content to a certain degree, but they cannot read every message or prevent screenshots, forwards, or replays, okay? So when we're setting parental controls, we need to have a conversation on why they matter. So when you're setting parental control, let the child know it's to help them stay safe. It's not a punishment. When they want a new app, go through the app details of it to understand why this app is there, who does it serve, what are the pros and cons of it. And when they break the rules, let them know their consequences. It's not a punishment, but it is to help them redirect and change behavior. So parental control tools are effective only to a certain point. We need to still have intentional conversations with our children why they exist. Otherwise, they will find a way to bypass them. And finally, we will talk about technology dependency, which is basically what we call addiction. And this is where screen time starts to control the child. When they're away from the screen, they are basically uncontrollable. So they lose control and they use it even when they know it's causing problems. So what are the red flags? Clips. The child has no control. They say, I'm trying to stop gaming, but I can't, right? They lie that they have stopped gaming, but they have opened an account with their siblings' phones, with their friend's phone on another person's computer. That is lying about their usage. There's also interference. Their constant gaming, their constant online is affecting their grades, their chores, their moods. Basically, they are becoming uncontrollable. They are preoccupied. Have you ever talked to a child and when you finish conversing, you ask them, did you hear? And they're like, huh? What were you saying? They're constantly preoccupied about going back online. So simply because you've told them to put the phone down and have a conversation with you, basically they are preoccupied, they switch off. And they're still using the devices despite saying that it is harming them. That shows a form of technology dependence. So this is not that go home today and start diagnosing your child, you are technology dependent. No, it's just about offering support to help them get healthier routines. Remember, it's telling them that you're not there to punish them. You just want them to have a better life. So next slide, Anna, you want to help them feel less stressed, to have better sleep, to study fast, to focus on physical movement, and have people time. Just because your friends are online doesn't mean you should cut off all physical social interactions. And finally, for us as parents, you replace, you don't just remove. So don't take away the phone and not give them an alternative. Don't take away the computer and not give them an alternative. If you take it away, what are you replacing it for? With them for, so that they can have an alternative. Otherwise, they will get into mischief. So when we are dealing with technology dependence, please don't just remove, replace it with an alternative activity for your child that is fun, that is age appropriate, and that will also give them as much excitement. So get extra help if the meltdowns are extreme, if the child is in depression or anxiety. Loop in the school counselor or the local helpline for guidance and referrals. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Athena. I'm gonna finish us off with some more general resources that we wanted you to have. But I just wanted to, leave the floor for some questions because I know that the content that Athena just presented has been very rich. Um, don't worry, we'll be able to share the slides with Faith, and I'm pretty sure she will be able to share it with all of you after. So anything that you haven't been able to note down that you would find useful, we're happy to share. And because sometimes, the harmful content that your child might encounter online is not created locally, or you might not know where it is created when we're talking about grooming or manipulation of data that your child has put online, it's possible that you don't always know where the content has been created. And so in those cases, it's useful to rely on external sources. Or if you feel like it's getting out of your hand, out of control, and you feel like you need professional help, we just want to give you a few options on what you can do. So I just wanted to circulate a link um, from the ICMEC Global Reporting Portal, which is a place where you can send a report on you can find, sorry, the list of hotlines and helplines in your country. It links a lot of different platforms, partners, organizations that actually work on removing and reporting that content. It could be child sexual abuse, it could be grooming. The type of resources differ. The difference between a helpline and hotline is that a helpline will be a support base that you can usually call or reach out to by chat or even anonymous email. It might be helpful for your child to know about the concept of helpline as well, because sometimes they also accept anonymous tips or, anonymous testimonies. So if the child has fear of coming forward with their testimony, it's a very useful tip for them to know that there are organizations that whole job is to get those testimonies and give advice to the child and to the parents if you're the one reaching out to them. And a hotline is typically not someone that would interact with you after the abuse, but their primary goal is to remove the content, and they will be very efficient for that. In the UK, with the Online Safety Act and inside the European Union, there are increasingly big legislation pieces that dictate how you can report content, and often there are hotlines that are dedicated to remove that content efficiently. And so it can be a very fast process as well. I also want to underline the work of InHope because I'm talking about hotlines. InHope is the big network of internet hotlines. So this is specifically for child sexual abuse material. So whenever there is manipulation of images of children of a sexual nature, it won't really be useful for any other sort of harms, but this is still a very good sort of name of organization to have in mind because it often provides a report box so that you can report abusive or exploitative content very easily. And it is available in many different countries. It has different organizations that are partners. For UK specific channels, because I know that we have a big audience from the UK, for CSAM, the Internet Watch Foundation is the main reporting platform, and the IWF has this speciality that it has connections to other countries as well. So I'll put that in the slide after, but most of the most of the countries that we work with, they often have a portal to report content to the IWF, and ICMEC also has one. So it's actually one of the partner portals that has the most reports of the entire IWF system, sorry. So it's a good name to know if you don't know where the report is coming from, but you still want to make it. And in any case, if you're not sure that you're addressing the right reporting platform hotline, it's still better to do the reports than not to. It will end up getting forwarded to the right actor, so don't worry about that. For learning more about online protection in the UK specific context, I would also recommend CEOP, the Child Exploitation in Online Protection Unit of the National Crime Agency, the NCA. They have a lot of education material. Obviously, it's not your responsibility to learn everything about this topic. This is mostly if you want to know more about this and this interested you also on an intellectual level, I would say. I would just like to remind emergency services or local police. I know that it's sometimes hard to take it to these services, but it is important that we also contribute to recognizing that these are actual real problems that impact children. And I would say there's also a level of collective awareness that these problems need to be taken seriously by the powers around us, and increasingly they are. And for support helplines and wellbeing services, I would recommend Childline in the UK. That is an incredibly efficient support service as well. For other countries and mechanisms, as I said, I would refer you to the IWF and InHope. And of course, ICMEC is also always available to give you advice. So feel free to reach out to us. If you ever think that you are seeing something, please never forward content that is harmful, but do reach out by keeping the URLs. And if you have the device with the harmful content, and you don't know what to do with it and you are looking for advice, we are always here. I know that we don't have a lot of time left and we also are quite late in the evening, but we also wanted to give you the floor for questions now. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Athena. Please, if you have any question that you'd like to ask, I know that some questions are already in the chat room. If you have any other question that you would like to ask, if you cannot type, you can quickly unmute and ask before we call it a day. We have just about 2 minutes to go. Also, if you have something that you have learned that you would like to drop in the chat room, something that is very that you have picked from today's session, you can also drop in the chat room. Thank you, Athena, for that response. So there was a question in the chat room that says, how do we balance safety with respecting a young person's privacy and independence? Yeah. So Athena has responded, for younger children below 13, privacy is a co-shared responsibility. Absolutely. So parents have to be vigilant and present, even know the password to the child's account and who they are talking to. For teens, there is more independence. Unfortunately, we cannot fully monitor them as they can hide or use different devices. Hence, the need for the safe spaces where they know they can reach out when something feels off or wrong, or when they make mistake. I hope we can all read this. So yes, Athena, do you want to talk about the Roblox part?
I just shared a
For one
slide.
thing that's to us, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just shared a slide that we do for training on how to secure your platforms.
Okay.
So we cannot fully take children away from these platforms. Again, we need to emphasize that, but we can try and make their experiences safer by safe spaces and also parental restrictions. So for Roblox, you can use the child's account. You create parental controls where you have the parental PIN. Then on the parental account, you put on limits or restrictions. So on the chats, you can limit the chat experiences by age. This is something that Roblox offers. Then you go to privacy. Who can message, chat, or invite your child? You can put it to no one or only friends. And when you put only friends, also it is friends that you have approved yourself. And also you can turn off private chat. And you can also limit spending, because I know most of these online games ask you to spend. So I advise parents, if you really want your child to play online and you want them to spend money, have a separate card for gaming than the card that you use for your house shopping, rent, and everything. Things happen. So if you want your children to have online accounts where they're actually using a credit card or a card, basically have a card that is dedicated specifically to kids things, and don't mix your whole credit card with the gaming credit card. So get a separate account, and also on that put a spending limit and have conversations. Again, all these limits will mean nothing if we don't have conversations about safety, because your child won't understand why you're limiting it to friends only unless you tell them, because other people can abuse you and this is how they will take advantage of you. Once you explain the how, it becomes easier for the child to stick within the limits that the parent has set. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so very much, Athena. Thank you, Anna. And thank you everyone for joining this session. I hope it's been impactful and we have learned some during this session. This materials will be made available, the recording if you want to replay, and then if the slides will be made available to us after now. Thank you so much. And if you still have any question, you can send to me, respond to the emails that have been going out from Elenasy, and then we will respond to you. Thank you so much. In the absence of further questions, we'll be calling it a day. We're 2 minutes behind schedule. Athena, Anna, thank you. Thank you for this evening. So, all right. Good night, everyone, and have an amazing evening.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much,
Faith.
Faith.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.